far more than that. You'll hear the president admitting he downplayed the virus, he knew it was far more deadly than he let on, and he knew it far earlier than the public. People say lives have been lost, but they haven't been lost. They're dead. 190,000 Americans are dead. And the president lied to us when it really mattered, when action could have been taken based on the information the president had that would have saved lives. And in case you're wondering how many lives, the number is simply heartbreaking. Researchers at Columbia University estimate that instituting social distancing just 1 week sooner would have prevented at least 36,000 deaths. 2 weeks sooner could have prevented 84% of all fatalities. In a moment, you'll hear the president's own words taken from many conversations at key moments over many months with the Washington Post's Bob Woodward. And yes, those conversations were recorded, and you'll hear them. What's more, everything you'll hear him say tonight, he volunteered, including his warning to Woodward, but not to the public, that COVID was transmitted through the air and far deadlier than the flu. He said it during what's come to be known as the lost month, when he could have mobilized the government and the public and, as you saw, saved lives. He could have, but didn't. February 7th is when he said that to Woodward, the beginning of what was the lost month. And now he's saying he was downplaying the threat to avoid a panic. That's what he's saying today, as if we've all simply forgotten those rallies he held at the time, and everything else he was saying about not wanting his numbers to go up. Whatever the president's motivation, the fact is, hearing the truth didn't panic the people of South Korea, which has seen just 21,000 cases and only 344 deaths in the last 6 months. No one panicked in Germany or in Canada, 2 other countries that have done far better than we have. Still, the president now says he did what he did in service of the greater good, which is also what he told Bob Woodward back in March. He didn't want to panic people. You'll hear it straight from the president tonight, as well as his thoughts on, quote, my effing generals, as he calls them. You'll also hear for the first time the audio of the president talking about a secret nuclear weapon system that he claims we've been developing and more. In all the pages of Woodward's new book, Rage. CNN special correspondent Jimmy Gangel will be guiding us through all the key aspects of it tonight, starting with the president, the virus, and the truth. So, Jamie, what was the president telling Bob Woodward? Talk about what he was telling him about the coronavirus in early February.
So this is February 7th, Anderson, when we were thinking about the virus in China. This was very, very early on. And just to point out, the president agreed to this being taped. All of these 18 interviews were recorded. And what he says is he gives Woodward striking detail about how much he knew but wasn't telling the public. Here's part of the interview.
And so what was President Xi saying yesterday?
Well, we were talking mostly about the virus, and I think he's going to have it in good shape, but, it's a very tricky situation. It goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. The touch, you don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. People don't realize we lose 25,000, 30,000 people a year here. Who would ever think that, right?
I know.
It's pretty amazing. And then I say, well, is that the same thing? This is more deadly. This is 5 per, this is 5% versus 1% and less than 1%. So this is deadly stuff.
So, Anderson, so much of what he said there is striking because we did not know this at the time, but I want to point to 2 things. First, that it was airborne. This coming from the president, who is still mocking people who wear masks. And second, that he understands that it is so much more deadly than the normal flu because during the same period of time, he's absolutely saying, oh, it's just another flu. So it's just a striking contrast to what he's saying publicly.
Yeah, saying that it's acknowledging airborne, and which was, discussed, questioned, but not known for sure at the time. The president knew, and far deadlier than the flu. He was having rallies, indoor rallies after this with no social distancing, no masks. Very different than what the president was saying publicly about the virus at the time.
Right, absolutely. So just to remind people, to give it some context, we've put together some sound of exactly what the president was telling the public when he was saying something quite different to Bob Woodward. Here's that.
And I think the virus is going to be fine. You know, in April, supposedly, it dies with the hotter weather. And that's a beautiful date to look forward to.
We have it very much under control in this country.
People are getting better. They're all getting better. There's a very good chance you're not going to die. In fact, we're very close to a vaccine.
This is a flu. This is like a flu. Of the 15 people, the original 15 as I call them, 8 of them have returned to their homes. We're going down, not up. We're going very substantially down, not up. And again, when you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to 0, that's a pretty good job we've done. It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear.
Well, it hasn't disappeared, and Woodward's book paints just a devastating portrait. He has so many details about a January 28th top secret briefing where the president is told all of this, and he just describes it as a betrayal of trust.
In March, the president told Woodward he wanted to downplay the virus to the American people.
Right, so first we have February 7th where he gives Woodward all these details. Then on March 19th, in another interview that was recorded, he says 2 things that are pretty shocking. First, remember, he kept saying that young people wouldn't be affected by this. Children, even in August 5th, I think he said, children are immune. So he tells Woodward something quite different. And then in the second part of this, you hear him admitting that he is concealing this. Here's the tape.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older
exactly.
people, to plenty of young people.
So,
What's going on?
give me a moment of talking to somebody, going through this with Fauci or somebody who kind of, it caused a pivot in your mind, because it's clear just from what's on the public record that you went through a pivot on this to, oh my God, the gravity is almost inexplicable and unexplainable.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
Sure, I want you to
I
be.
wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down
Yes, sir.
because I don't want to create a panic.
But I understand this wasn't just about panic. First of all, as you pointed out earlier, plenty of other countries dealt with this. Nobody panicked. If you want to talk about panic, 190,000 Americans dead. That's a much bigger thing. Americans dealt with 9/11 after Pearl Harbor. They dealt with World War II. To say that this was about preventing panic or calming people down is simply outrageous.
It's no secret that the president and Dr. Fauci have often disagreed publicly when it comes to the virus. Fauci is basically, it seems like, been sidelined. What does Dr. Fauci tell Woodward about his views on the president?
So throughout the book, he is quoted. There's a lot of detail and direct quotes. And he says, what Woodward reports, Fauci says about Trump, that his leadership is rudderless, that his attention span is like a minus number, and that his sole purpose is to get reelected. I should say that Dr. Fauci did an interview today in which he said he didn't recall this. I just want to remind people again, with their permission, Bob Woodward is known to record all of these interviews. These were very specific quotes in the book.
Jamie, stay with us. I want to bring in our chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay.